Hello and welcome back to our countdown to Christmas. It's the 20th of December. We've got Christmas at the end of the week and we're continuing on with our daily grind with our countdown to Christmas. Very simply, what would you pick? You know how this works, Team Necrons or Team Space Marines. Now I've got a question for you. Why have you not subscribed? 33% of the viewers have subscribed and the 66.4% of you haven't actually subscribed. So click the red button below to not miss out on any future content for now and after Christmas. So now that that plug's out the way, let's get on with the video. So Team Necrons are winning this thing 11 points to 8. There's still time for Space Marines to pull this one back. And today we've got the Triarch Praetorians up against the Marine Aggressors. Now I know these guys have got different battlefield roles. The Praetorians are fast attack and the Aggressors are elite, but both are pretty good in combat and both can shoot pretty well as well. So I thought we'd put a little comparison up. Now if you're taking Praetorians, you can get 10 of them for 250 points. And with the Aggressors, you can get 6 of them for 240 points with potential upgrades on top, which we'll talk about in the video. But that's just for a comparison for you in terms of points. Now onto the stats. You can see from the stat line here that the Triarch Praetorians have obviously got a better movement stat because they're in the fast attack options, of course. So they've got a 10-inch movement as opposed to a 5-inch movement from the Aggressors. They've also got a better strength characteristic of 5 and a better leadership, of course, with the Necron standard. But the Aggressors do have an additional wound. Now just bear in mind that the Aggressor Sergeant is going to have an additional attack and a little bit more leadership. But for me, the Triarch Praetorians have got a better stat line. Now as for the abilities, Living Metal, of course, to bring back lost wounds for the Triarch Praetorians, Command Protocols if they're within 6 inches of a character model, and Reanimation Protocols, which isn't too bad on them because they've got 2 wounds as opposed to 1 or as opposed to 3. So you can be bringing some of them back if you've got some high casualties going off in your unit. And then I wanted to add here that they've also got the fly keyword, which is quite important, so they can be hopping over terrain and whatnot. Whereas the Marine Aggressors don't actually have any abilities other than the basic ones, Angels of Death for the Combat Doctrines and the Shock Assault, and the Combat Squads if you're taking 6 of them. You can split them up into 2 units of 3 during the deployment stage to give them a bit of flexibility. But again, I'm giving the point here to the Triarch Praetorians. There's not that much in it. They've all got pretty basic abilities, but the Necron abilities in general are probably just slightly better in terms of the basic ones anyway. Now as for damage output, both units got 2 different options with the war gear. The Triarch Praetorians start with the Rod of Covenant, which is both a shooting and a melee weapon, range 12 inches, assault 1, strength 5, minus 3 AP and 2 damage. And effectively it's the same thing in melee, except you've got 3 attacks with it as opposed to assault 1. Now when you combine these together, because of course all the stats are the same, you're going to want to shoot and then get the charge off, of course. It's going to combine to 4 attacks at range and in melee, which is going to remove 2 Guardians, 1.5 Marine Intercessors, or 1 Necron Lich Guard if you're going up against your own kind. Now if you wanted to use the second options, which is the Particle Caster and the Void Blade, the Caster is 12-inch range, pistol 2, strength 6, no AP, 1 damage. So you can actually fire that one into combat if you're still fighting. But again, on the charge, before you actually go for the charge in the shooting phase, you're going to want to fire those 2 pistol shots on your way in. And then you've got the Void Blade as well, which is strength user, making it strength 5, minus 3 AP, and the damage is 1, but you get an additional attack there. So you've got a combined total of 6 attacks when you combine these together, although one of them is at minus 3 AP and one of them is at no AP. So what I've done here is I've showed you roughly what you're going to be taking away when you're going up against certain units again. I've used the same examples. So with the pistols, you can get rid of 0.7 Guardians. You're not going to do much to a Marine Intercessor or a Lich Guard model. And in melee, you're almost taking away 2 Guardians, nearly an Intercessor, and just over half a chance of taking away a Lich Guard model. So you can see from those figures that option number 2 is probably better served against factions that have got either toughness 3 or they've got a poor armor save. You want to be using the Rod of Covenant against the more elite armies. Now as for the Marine Aggressors, they've got 2 options as well. The main one is the Flamestorm Gauntlets, which are also both shooting and melee, 12-inch range, assault D6, strength 4, no AP, 1 damage, and you're actually getting 2 of these gauntlets, and it does automatically hit. And with those gauntlets, you're going to average 7 automatic hits there, which will remove around 3 Guardians, half an Intercessor, or just under half a Lich Guard model because of their toughness 5, of course. Now with the melee side of the gauntlets, their strength 8, minus 3 AP, and the damage is 2, but it will be a minus 1 to hit. So with your 4 attacks, when you include Shock Assault per model, you're going to remove 2 Guardians, nearly 1.5 Intercessors, and a Lich Guard model. So when you're combining all the damage output for the Flamestorm Gauntlets, you're doing about 5 Guardians, 2 Marine Intercessors, and 1.5 Lich Guard models. So there's a lot of stats there, a lot of figures there, but I'll simplify this for you on the screen. This is what you're going to do with the Praetorians, and this is what you're going to do with the Aggressors when you're combining all the damage output. And that's why the Marine Aggressors are going to take the damage output selection. Now there is actually a second option which we don't even need to go into. I'll display it on the screen for you anyway, but it is actually 5 points to take per model, which will scuffer the points. In terms of the fairness of the 2 units going against each other, they're almost identical in a sense. Instead of having automatic hits, you're going to get 6 shots per model because they're assault 3 per gauntlet, but you also get the Fragstorm grenade launcher as well on top of that. But the point will be going to the Marine Aggressors. Now on to the synergy. You got to mention here that the Triarch Praetorians are dynastic agents, which is a massive hindrance to the unit synergy. They're going to have no dynasty code, so there's no Novak code, there's no Nihilak code, there's virtually nothing, you can't even use the custom codes. But even further to add to that, a lot of the major characters within the Necron faction have buffs that relate to dynastic core units. So for example, the Overlord with the Mine Will Be Done ability, a Chronomancer with the Chronometron ability, Technomancer with the Rites of Reanimation ability, or a Royal Warden with the Adaptive Strategy ability. All of them only work on dynasty core units, so none of these buffs are going to work on Praetorians. That doesn't take away everything. For example, Illumina Zarez, his ability just works on Necron core units to reanimate them, and he can also augment them as well if needed, adding a strength, toughness or ballistic skill to each and every unit. And the Silent King's got plenty of buffs with core units and Triarch Praetorian units in particular, which is a fairly decent combination. In my opinion, if you're taking Triarch Praetorians, you should be taking the Silent King. They work very well together. And then the last character of note is Amrak the Traveller. His Overlord buffs, like Mine Will Be Done and Relentless March, they also just work on core units because he's also a dynastic agent. As for their stratagems, you can add one to the strength with the disruption fields, or with the judgment of the Triarch stratagem, you can plus one to the hit rolls, which can be done in the shooting phase or in the fight phase. Now going on to the aggressors, these are all the chapters that I'd probably use with aggressors. Pretty much anything really. They've all got their synergy with both shooting and melee units. I've put most of the main ones here. There's obviously some I've missed out, but they're pretty much going to work in any chapter because they can do both jobs. Now in terms of unit synergy, of course you're going to get a captain out with the Rites of Battle Aura to be able to reroll hit rolls of a 1. Now it won't be necessarily needed with the Flamestorm Gauntlets because they automatically hit. But if you were to take the Auto Bolt Storm Gauntlets, these are going to aid you just fine. But also don't forget in melee, those Flamestorm Gauntlets are still going to be used and they're going to have a -1 to hit as well. So the captain actually may have some use there in melee. You can use the Chaplain of course, and all of his litanies are going to work quite well. Again, whether it's for your range capabilities or your melee attacks. And if you wanted to get an invuln save on these guys, you simply just get a Librarian, use a Psychic Fortress, you know how that works. Apothecaries can give you a Feel No Pain save, they can heal wounds back, and also use the Combat Revival stratagem to bring a model back every single turn for a command point, and it could actually be free if you've got a Chief Apothecary on the table. And then finally, you've got the Judicia. If you wanted to make enemy units within 3 inches fight last, you bring your Judicia out with the Teleport Mortis ability, so you're not going to be losing models unnecessarily. Then finally, with their stratagems, Transhuman Physiology and Unyielding in the face of foe, it's going to keep them up and running, can't win them on less than a 4+, and damage 1 weapons will give you a +1 to your armor save. Pretty nice. So all in all, with the synergy, I've got to give it to the aggressors. That dynastic agent ability on the Praetorians is a real hindrance. That's not to say that they can't work in the list, but there's definitely more synergy with the aggressors. Let's get on to the final topic, which is the resiliency. Now of course, living metal on your Praetorians because they're Necrons, you can be bringing back a wound every single turn, which will actually heal the model up to full wounds because they're only starting on 2 wounds. But with the 2 stratagems that we just mentioned, Transhuman Physiology and Unyielding in the face of the foe, they're going to play a key part in keeping your aggressors up. But the main thing for me is the fact that they've got 3 wounds as opposed to 2. Now I know they're more expensive, so you've got to take that into consideration, but damage 2 weapons and damage D3 weapons are going to be less effective against a model that's got 3 wounds, because it's going to take 2 dice just to go through. Whereas with the Praetorian, a damage 2 weapon is just going to wipe a model out, and D3 on average of course is 2 as well. So for me, the aggressors have got slightly more resiliency, not by much because of living metal and reanimation protocols, but that isn't as useful on a 2 wounded model. So overall, this is how I've scored the video. I've given the win to the Marine aggressors, 3 points to 2, so that actually brings them closer in the tally. Necrons are still leading this thing, 11 points to 9, there's only 2 points in it, and there's still 5 mini battles to go, including Christmas Day. So guys, that's the end of the video. Hope you've enjoyed this one. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, you know the coup. 66% of you haven't actually done that yet, so please do that below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.